Okay,
Good to go.
good morning, good afternoon. I would like to call the June 18th, 2024 Measure U Oversight Committee meeting to order. I would like to point out that this meeting is being recorded. I'm going to put on my glasses. Through Zoom and teleconferencing. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Thank you, Vice Chair Schaefer. Committee
Here.
Committee Member Kane.
Here.
Committee Member Clark.
Here.
Committee Member Norm Kyrus is absent. Committee Member Collins is absent. Committee Member Silva.
Here.
Vice Chair Schaefer is present as well. Let the record reflect also Chairwoman Chenault is absent.
Okay. Committee Member Collins will now lead us in Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
All right, ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have communications from the public. There are 3-minute time limit per person on all public comments on the agenda items. All who wish to speak, including committee members and staff, need to be recognized by the vice chair before speaking. Please state your name and the item you are commenting on before speaking. Okay. We will take the public comment list on the agenda. Call the name of the speakers, provide, which is this. We have Pat Gregory. Come on down.
Good afternoon, Pat Gregory, and I'm commenting on agenda item 6A. The city used resolutions 4703 and 4731 to convince the citizens to vote for both Measure U and H. 2 different councils signed the resolutions, and a third council affirmed those same promises when Measure H was put to a vote. The citizens are doing their part in paying the tax, but the city is not keeping its part of the bargain. As the Oversight Committee, it's your job to provide input on this charade. The audited expenditures, as well as the proposed expenditures, are not in line with Measure U. This is not my opinion, but a fact. The resolutions clearly state that a mandatory staffing ratio is to be annually funded, and the city should also budget for the mandatory staffing ratio in every budget. The city has failed on both accounts. The evidence of that failure is in the documents provided to you. Based on the information provided by the city, the mandatory staffing ratio is not being met. The ACFR shows 30 less officers than required by the resolutions. What is equally disturbing is that the city is trying to misrepresent the use of Measure U. The information provided to you shows that nearly half of the salary expense for HPD is being paid for by Measure U. If you think about that for a moment, it's the general fund that should pay for those officers since they are existing and not new positions. However, by using Measure U, the city does not have to use general funds to pay for half of those salaries, thus freeing up nearly $10 million annually to use on whatever. And the use of those monies are outside the sight of this committee. The city has not complied with the resolutions used to persuade voters to accept Measure U and H and is misrepresenting information to try to fool you into believing that the city is in compliance. Please do not be misled. Also, ask yourself, if the city was unable to hire quality candidates, where is the money that should have been allocated to all of those officers? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Are there any other additional guest registered speakers?
No other public comment.
Okay. We will now move to the consent calendar. I've asked that we pull the minutes out of the consent calendar so we can address each one individually. Since we had issues last time with the May 30th, and I have some issues with the June 6th. So on the May 30th minutes, is there any discussion on that? Most.
Have nothing. Looks good to me.
No.
Good.
Oh, I'm sorry, I always said no.
Oh, yeah.
You'll call the roll on the May 30th minutes?
Yeah, so you need a motion maker and a second to approve those minutes.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by committee member Kane, second by committee member Silva, do a roll call. Committee member Kane,
Yes.
committee member Clark,
Yes,
committee member Silva,
Yes.
vice chair Schaefer.
Yes.
That motion passes 4-0.
Okay. All right, any discussion on June 6th?
My only comment is that I got listed twice under the roll call, once for present, once for absent, but I was absent for that meeting.
We'll make that correction for the record.
In the subcommittee that prepared the letter that was to go to the city council, there was a lot of discussion as to whether or not the 1.2 was mandatory staffing or not. The assistant city attorney confirmed that it was mandatory, but the way this is written, it just says the language was stated in the resolution. It doesn't say anything. I mean, you know, I was after something definitive to say that she confirmed that the 1.2 was a mandatory instruction from the city council, not just discretionary. So based on that, I cannot vote for this.
As I understand, she did say it was mandatory because she went back to the document and said that the wording was
She definitely
mandatory.
did, but it doesn't say that here for the public to see.
So we want the minutes to reflect that the assistant city attorney confirmed that the language stated in resolution 4703 that the mandatory staffing ratio is 1.2 FTE sworn officers.
Right.
We want that specifically
Exactly.
listed in the minutes.
So I reviewed the video and I have suggested added language. So what that line could be in the proposed language could include Assistant City Attorney Layla Sarwari confirmed the language stated in the resolution has a mandatory staffing ratio of 1.2 full-time equivalent sworn officers per 100 residents as stated in resolution 4703.
JP,
That would have.
I'd like to see 1.2 per thousand residents on 100. I'd like you to reference resolution 4703 and section 6 of that resolution, just so that we're being specific.
Okay,
But I have no other objection to that language. If that's okay, Chair.
I can't hear you.
I was correcting the ratio. He had it listed as 1.2 per hundred, it's 1.2 per thousand. I also wanted him to list the resolution number, so we're being specific because there are two resolutions that are offered and referenced together.
Okay,
Sounds
so I'm making a motion that we table this minutes until that correction is made.
good. Seconded.
We have a roll call, we have a second?
He's right. In 1 second.
is a vote needed on that or is?
Yeah, do we have to vote?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Schaefer, second by Committee Member Kane to table the minutes and to include the added language. I'll do a roll call. Committee Member Kane,
Aye.
Committee Member Clark,
Yes,
Committee Member Silva,
Yes.
Vice Chair Schaefer.
Yes,
That motion passes 4-0.
Chair, I just wanted the committee to be aware of what a motion to table does. If you table a motion, that means it goes away and it does not come back. I believe you're intending to continue this item to your next regularly scheduled meeting. Is that correct?
yes,
You'd like these to come back?
yes.
Then I recommend that you reconsider your motion that you just made and change the motion to continue the item to the next regular meeting of the Measure U Committee.
I move that the item be reconsidered at the next meeting in lieu of tabling it. Second here,
We'll do a roll call for the record. Motion by Vice Chair Schaefer, second by Committee Member Kane. Committee Member Kane,
Yes.
Committee Member Clark,
Yes.
Committee Member Silva,
Yes.
Vice Chair Schaefer.
yes.
That motion passes 4-0.
All right. Fiscal year 2023 expenditure review and discussion of fiscal year 2024. Do we have this staff report?
Discussion.
There's really no further discussion other than receiving the letter. If you do have additional questions, because we did go over all of the details on the prior 3 meetings. So, yeah, I'm here to answer any questions.
Which is something we can't see.
What's that?
We can't see it. How can we have questions on something we can't see?
It was all of the information that's already been discussed the past 3 meetings. So there's nothing new to present at this time. It's just more or less to receive the letter in support or otherwise to present to council in regards to the expenditures for Measure U. That's the purpose of today's meeting.
Discussion on the letter. I don't know what to do with it.
It says here, I'm supposed to say, can we please get a report from the Measure U Oversight Committee on the discussion item that we don't have for the proposed letter to the city council?
I believe the discussion item is the letter that the committee was drafting,
Yeah.
Which we don't have.
which comes from you, the committee. Yeah.
Well, it has to be rewritten because lots of new information was coming out.
The question I have is the proper way of doing this by taking motions authorizing the subcommittee to do the letter approving the 22-23, then the other 2 things separately in separate letters, sitting at, and the money for the insurance, is that the proper way of doing this?
Committee member, you'll have to excuse me. I don't have my glasses, so I can't actually tell who you're looking at.
Oh, I'm
Look at me.
putting it up, whoever can educate me.
I think that the committee has 2 tasks under the ordinance and under the relevant resolutions. So you have a task of commenting on the proposed expenditure plan for fiscal year 24-25. And to give your opinion on whether that proposed expenditure plan complies with the provisions of the 2 resolutions that we often reference and the ordinance itself.
And any other input.
And any other input that you may have,
Okay,
feel free. And then you also have a task of commenting on the audited financials from 22-23. If you have any comments upon those expenditures, and whether you felt that they were in compliance with the resolutions or the ordinances. I do want to point out that the ordinance itself does not have any restrictions upon the expenditure of the funds. It's a general tax under the ordinance. The restrictions, if you could call them out, on how the money is to be spent come from the resolutions. The resolution also actually only requires that you comment upon the proposed expenditure plan, but it has been the practice to comment on both because you're required to review both. It would not be inappropriate to send that as two letters, Committee Member Clark, or as one letter where you comment on both. It's up to the committee how you'd like to proceed.
So this 1.2 ratio that is mandated in the resolutions has not been reflected in the budget. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So then that could be a comment that you could include in your letter, which is section 6 of Reso 4703 calls for a 1.2 peace officer staffing ratio, and it is not included in the budget. Seems pretty straightforward.
Okay.
We can add that language into the letter.
Mark, what's happening with the insurance? We talked quite a bit about last time.
Yeah, in terms of the insurance, under the current arrangement, it's set to expire, just as contracts set to expire on June 30th, 2024. We've been shopping for insurance since we were provided notification of the anticipated termination. I think Tiffany, you can provide some updates on where we are with different provisions of insurance. Could you provide an update on both the companies that we're actively talking to, the timing, and then the dollar amounts of coverage and premium?
Before you do, can I have a direct question? You weren't here last meeting to hear my tirade, and I'm still there. Why was that not told to this committee that we're actually up against the deadline and losing our insurance? I had to find out about it by hearing a discussion behind me at dinner.
I heard about this and I pulled the verbatim transcript from our meeting of May 30th, and we talked about insurance.
We talked about insurance, but none of us here understood that the city was actually, this poor woman had to take my heat. But she looked me straight in the eye and said, yes, that's
Yeah,
true.
the focus of this committee is.
I don't care what the focus of the committee is, sir. You had a mission to do. You did not give us all the information.
It's my understanding that the city clerk provided you information about the fact that the city council has been briefed in closed session on some of the issues related to this topic.
During the meeting that you weren't here, the prior meeting, when you made a presentation to us, you failed to tell us everything. You did not tell us that the insurance,
The focus,
if we couldn't find another insurance policy, the city was self-insured immediately within 30 days. You did not tell us that, but you came out with your hand out, asking for money for Measure U, where I tell you what, I don't see where
Commissioner Clark,
that can be taken.
I guess I'm gonna need to read into the record the verbatim conversation because we address issues related to self-insurance, and the city attorney
I made a joke.
helped provide
Sorry, it's
information on
not
that.
a laughing matter, but it's basically being
The
uninsured.
way we had that
Did-
conversation was.
You're telling me that in there, it's gonna say that you told us that if we don't get this together, if the city doesn't get this together within 30 days, we have no insurance.
Commissioner
I didn't
Clark,
walk out of here knowing that.
Committee Member Clark. The focus of that conversation was the FY 24-25 budget. And in the context of that budget, what I informed you of is an additional one-time expenditure. So it was an operational expense in addition to the $1.2 million CityNet contract that had to do with insurance. We didn't know what the number was going to be at that time, and I told you that.
But you
But you
did
didn't-
not tell us that if it didn't come through,
We had, that's an internal, I mean, seriously, it's the city's responsibility when there's lapsing insurance or issues like that for us to find coverage. I told you we were shopping with numerous companies. We have a broker that's working on that, and if we didn't find insurance, that we would need to be we would need to be self-insured, and we turned it over to the city attorney to explain what that meant for the city.
And he and I had a discussion afterwards of what I have had to deal with in cities that I've worked with that were self-insured and how long it took coming out. And I walked out of here, and I'm pretty sure most of the rest of the committee and people I've talked to had no idea.
Committee clerk, what information do you believe you did not have?
Within 30 days, if they didn't have a contract, we would be self-insured.
Understood. So you did not understand that our insurance is purchased on a fiscal year basis.
Oh, I understood.
Oh,
If you're going to give us information, we need the whole information. I do not believe we were given the whole information that day.
You were given information about the budget, which is the focus of this committee, FY 24-25 budget and expenditures. And what I told you is the money could be invested at that $2.4 million hypothetical number, not locked in yet, could either come out of Measure U or the general fund. And I asked you to consider commenting on whether it was your preference to have it come out of the general fund or out of Measure U.
and that $2.4 million is not public safety.
Let's see, I'd have to look back here and see if we tied it, but we did talk about the premiums. What I can tell you is that the premium increases are associated with claims related to use of force. And that we, for that reason, we believe it's a reasonable Measure U police drawdown in the current year. But we could also put that expense on the general fund and leave it off of the Measure U portion of the police Measure U balance.
In reference to resolution 4703, section 3, starting on page 2 of that resolution, the authorized expenditures include risk management and legal services in defense of claims and legal actions against the city and public safety personnel.
Okay,
So
that kind of covers that. Yeah.
you run a police department, you get claims,
Okay.
you need insurance.
Yeah.
And so we were looking for, and I think at the hour that we're at today, we won't have clarity on your preference. If you're not able to take action today, we need to finalize the budget for their adoption. But we are looking for your feedback, which I expressed on May 30th, on whether you had a preference for the city taking that $2.4 million. It's an operating expense. So we want to build it into the future years' budgets, not continue to treat this as a one-time expenditure. I did tell you that CityNet was at risk because that's a subjective, you don't have to have that contract. So down the road, we may have to pull ourselves out of that contract. But with insurance, we need to have this insurance. Otherwise, we will be self-insured, right? We want to avoid being self-insured. So if it would be helpful for us to receive your feedback today on whether you have a preference for including the 2.4 out of the Measure U general fund police surplus, or whether we attach that to the general fund. We can do either one. And ultimately, the council will make a decision on that. But it was my hope that this committee would provide a recommendation.
So are we saying that if we do the insurance with Measure U, that could jeopardize what we have with CityNet?
No.
Okay.
So think of CityNet as something separate. It's a contract that adds service and value to the community.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not required that we have that contract in place. We can, we would have less resources that would attend to homeless type issues. Our officers would probably spend more time in the field, same with the police, with the fire department. But in the context of the insurance, this is going to be an important ongoing expenditure for the city. Our premium, Tiffany, can you just describe the cost of the premium last year and the current numbers that we're talking about?
The insurance premium last year for our liability was around, I would say about 1 million. And this year we did just get quotes back actually today. And it's 2 layers of liability insurance from 2 different carriers. The first one is Munich, and they're covering us up to $7 million of liability insurance for primary. It is going to cost us a $1.5 million premium for that coverage. And then there is an additional layer of coverage for excess liability of $3 million for another $1.5 million premium. So it's a total of $10 million coverage for a premium a little over $3 million.
Per incident?
That is, per incident is actually a $5 million SIR for law enforcement liability claims and $2 million for non-law enforcement claims.
Does the committee understand what an SIR is? Okay, so that's effectively our deductible on our insurance. So that is the amount of money that the city spends on the claim before insurance starts covering it. When we started the last fiscal year, our SIR was $250,000. So we would pay the first $250,000, insurance would cover the rest. Now for law enforcement, it's gonna be $5 million per claim. So it's not just the premium.
So let me add to that, the SIR at the beginning of the current fiscal year is $250,000 per incident, regardless of whether it was law enforcement or not, or public safety. On January 1, it moved to $1 million. And now what we're describing to you as of today, the information came in today, is $5 million. So up from 250,000 to $5 million per incident for public safety and $2 million for everything else. So it's an enormous increase. The backstop in our budget today, the draft budget has $1.5 million, right, Tiffany, for claims?
Yes.
It has $1.5 million. This is where our fund balance, the city's general fund, not the Measure U fund balance, but it could be available. But the city's general fund, 55 million-ish at the end of the current fiscal year, will have to be a backstop for claims in excess of those, in excess of that $1.5 million budget. When we add more money to the budget, it drives other expenditures, and so we didn't feel it was necessary to drive on other unnecessary expenditures. But the council is aware, and you're aware that we're going to need to use the budget, the general fund reserve, to backstop any claims that are north of $1.5 million. Meanwhile, the premium, which has increased from $1 million to $3 million, a $2 million increase, we were plugging in a placeholder of $2.4 million. That's going to be approximately $2 million. But it comes with these other very large SIR increases. But what we want to do longer term is build that into the operational budget of the city. We're using one-time money in the construction of the budget, and that can either come from the Measure U fund balance or from the general fund balance. So we're going to draw down.
Based on what the attorney has said, that insurance can be part of Measure U, I move that the 2.4 be taken out of Measure U.
And do you have a distinction on police or fire? Because we're tracking two separate buckets. Our recommendation is to take it out of the police portion of the Measure U fund balance.
I would think so, yes. Do I have a second?
I'll second that one.
Okay. We have a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Excuse me. I have a motion by Vice Chair Schaefer, second by Committee Member Kane. We're going to do a roll call. Committee Member King,
Yes.
Committee Member Clark,
No.
Committee Member Silva,
Can I ask a question? I'm still undecided. Because I'm really worried about CityNet and I need to know, like, what does that mean for CityNet?
So I would say this motion does not affect CityNet in any way.
Okay,
CityNet is a different expenditure that you can discuss, make a recommendation on, and ultimately the council will have to make a decision on.
okay.
And I will add that we're recommending that the city invest in an additional year of CityNet services. The contract will be presented on Tuesday to the city council for renewal. And we will be presenting the insurance information to the council for renewal as well. Down the road, next year's budget, I think I mentioned this, but I have one excerpt of your conversation translated into words. But we talked, I believe, about the $2 million of one-time money in streets that we've invested in the current year draft budget. That $2 million, I think we're going to plan to hold that through at least December 31. In case there are claims, that $2 million council discretion could be used to address any claims that arise in the first 6 months, and can also help as a backstop against, making sure that our reserves stay robust. But we want to protect the reserves as best we can. And but I want you to know about the $2 million for street paving that could be designated in a different way as well.
Okay, and then before I make my decision, Dick, I just really want to know why you said no. Is that okay to ask?
What I was just gonna bring up, we had no discussion after the motion. My personal feeling after going through all this, when I was an officer, the state of California looked at the PERS monies, and at that time, PERS was doing really good with their investments. And the state of California stole a huge amount of money out of the PERS to use in their budget, and it's never been paid back. And I just see this as a small example of following that.
Okay.
I see, oh, we've got Measure U. If we can find a little bit of definition that says it's okay, we're gonna do it.
I
don't
think
agree.
that this doing it with Measure U would kind of prevent what your complaint was before, like us being 30 days to the deadline. So if it comes out of Measure U and it's reoccurring, then I feel like that would kind of remedy what your concerns are of us going to independent insurance.
I don't like the idea at all of using Measure U money for this insurance.
Okay,
We had to do it, and none of you were on at the time. I'm the only one I think that was left, had to vote for the same thing during COVID. And I tell you what, the conversation afterwards was, we had to vote for it, but none of us liked it. And
okay,
I'm not backed up to that wall again.
okay. Well, my vote would be for yes to use the Measure U funds.
Vice Chair Shaver,
Very good. So that vote passes 3-1.
3-1.
Okay. We keep talking about CityNet, and CityNet is not one thing. It's basically two things. The portion that helps the police department by counseling, getting people with some benefits and stuff like that is wonderful. Putting the people in 10 hotel rooms for $700,000, $800,000 is not. And that's my only issue with CityNet. Well, I got another issue. Why are we hiring this outside company to do everything versus there's a lot of in-house people or local people. But that's another issue. But I don't think putting the people in hotel rooms for 90 days is a public safety issue. It should not be part of Measure U. But any discussion?
Could I correct one thing you said? You mentioned $700,000 or $800,000 for hotels. I believe it's about $92 a night. It's a negotiated price, 10 rooms, 365 days. What that translates to is $335,800 approximately. So of the $1.2 million contract, approximately $336,000 is attributed to the hotel rooms. Now, if they don't stay in the hotel room, we're not billed.
And add on top of that, a 10% management fee, add on top of that, meal vouchers, all of which is not public safety. Okay, so my number was high, okay. But even at $400,000, it's not public safety.
So what we can do, last year, the current year budget is the first year that the city net contract was placed into a Measure U expenditure before it was absorbed by the department. And this committee can make a recommendation to the city council, and the council by a motion can move 400, let's say it's $400,000 from the Measure U expenditures to the general fund. And we're treating it as one-time money. So truly, they can make that motion and adjust just as
All
they
right.
can, just as they can with the premium. They can move it to the general fund, non-Measure U general fund dollars.
Okay. I think that's a good way to go. I just need all the numbers on that contract.
And if
Oh,
you-
in addition to the other stuff, if there's any damage to the hotel rooms, the city pays.
I will go a step further. If hypothetically, there's no letter approved today, but we capture motions from you, the city attorney can comment on this, but we would be able to take your motions and convey your decision, your feedback on the insurance and city net, this portion of the city net contract, and include that as information for the council to consider when considering adoption of the budget next Tuesday.
So I need to understand.
Mm.
So we are, sitting at is, you're proposing that that goes all the way to the general fund. So not just the portion that he's worried about, the hotels. and
I'm only
stuff.
addressing the 400, let's say it's approximately
Yes,
$400,000.
okay, you answered the question. That's what
Okay.
I need to know. Thank
So
you.
If you felt it was more appropriate to include a portion of that city net contract in the general fund and not the Measure U, because of concerns that there's not as much of a nexus on hotel room per diem and management fee that you referenced, then we can move that to, what you can do is encourage the council to move that investment to the general fund reserves, because again, we're using one-time money to support that contract. And then that would take 400-ish less $100,000 out of the Measure U general fund surplus.
And we could do that as a motion, so.
If you made a motion and you voted on that today, we would take that feedback and share it with the city council, regardless of whether there's a letter.
Motion to recommend to the city council.
Okay.
I have a question before on the this deals with the contract city net. Was it 2 weeks ago now? It was either Thursday or Friday. I became aware of a family that was camping in their vehicle behind True Value. We started making some calls. I don't think we call it the Rocks Group anymore, but that's, even when we called the police department, that was the term they used. And they made they gave us phone numbers and that of how to get a hold of CityNet. I got a call Wednesday from I don't know, the main group wanting to know what the information was. I was like, wait a minute, we talked to 2 people already. We've left voicemails. Why are you calling me asking this? Do you not listen to your voicemails? 2 days after that, now we're looking at it close to a week. I got a call from the local people. Oh, we kind of got word about it on Friday night, but we're not here on the weekend, so we figured that I've worked with departments that have a multidisciplinary team where it's officers and
Social workers.
the Human Health and Resources Group and all that. And there was at least a minor team available on the weekends. I mean, these people a week later gone. They had a child and I wasn't sure if it was the mother or the child had cerebral palsy, had been having seizures. They had lost their housing, but had monies coming in 2 weeks. These people needed help. I reached out to friends that through church groups and stuff, and that was the first time I had heard about calling 211. and getting information there, but I don't know if that's why I'm asking, okay, what is our contract with them as far as when it comes to the weekend? I mean, my experience as a cop was that seems to be when the services are really needed. Friday through Monday is when all that hits. But these people, it left me with the feeling that they weren't involved for the weekend.
Can I add something on that? It's been discussed going back and forth to the weekend, so the problem we have is not sitting it, it's all the resources that they would reach out to. They're closed on the weekend. So then you look at that and you're like, well, what we're paying for a service on the weekend that they can't really do anything. What they're gonna do is gather all the information of the family and probably say, let's meet on Monday at this location. And you're still with the same problem. But now we're using sitting net that we're paying for on days that they can't get the mission accomplished, to get the resources they need and whatnot. So we would love to have them 7 days a week. And as soon as we can figure that out, we'll do that. Or this other team you're talking about, using a multidisciplinary team. Sitting net's, what I can tell you, what sitting net affords to the police department, if they're not there, then we're responding to that call, and we're sitting with that family and whatnot, trying to get them the resources, and now we're not out in the streets dealing with the police issues. So this is a temporary, we had it last year, we're doing it this year, but we're looking into other ways. We're looking to see how beneficial they are, actually, the time that they are here, one day, Monday through Friday. We're doing all the analytics and whatnot. And I think 2 years of that is gonna be really good to really find out how well they're doing or not so well.
Maybe it's
we can
just
come up with
me
a different
being
plan.
fiberglass coming from Humboldt County that had no monies,
No.
but had contacts 24/7. And come down to a county like this and it's like, what? You know, I had a mental health facility, 24-hour lockdown available to me
We do
within
have-
miles.
We do have that, but you're not gonna put families and whatnot in that.
Oh, I understand, but I mean, that was an example.
Yeah,
Um,
we do.
yeah,
lack
and I've got it here,
resources.
it's around the corner from me. The county put a facility in without
Hmm.
telling us exactly what was happening until the lady with lipstick all the way around her face came knocking on my door because she had escaped.
So I guess I can look at, the only thing that we could do is the vouchers. We do have the vouchers. I know it's some people hate them, some people like, it's a necessary evil, I think, part of the program. And I think on the weekends would be even more beneficial because you don't have those resources, but you have a family that's out on the street. Here's a voucher for the hotel this weekend until Monday. So, I mean, those are discussions we can have though, and tailor that if we need to.
Yeah.
Or
I
get
think we're
somebody where.
required by the state, aren't we, to have so much of that voucher?
What's that?
Aren't we required by the state to have so much of the vouchers available? I thought there was some.
There may be, and I know they're doing that Monday through Friday, but I mean, what if you do come across that family on Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah.
Those are things that we can discuss and tailor the program if we have that issue. I haven't heard of it, but that's not saying it's not an issue.
One of the issues was also the city's attempt to comply with the Ninth Circuit's ruling in the city of Boise case. We upgraded our anti-camping ordinances following that Ninth Circuit case. And one of the requirements is that the city have the ability to ensure shelter for every person that we would attempt to enforce those ordinances on. And so I know that was a big part of the discussion with the city council when they were looking, because I think Vice Chair Schaefer is correct. I think it's fair to look at it as essentially two components of one program because it was originally presented as two components. And that was one of the council's thought processes when they adopted the hotel motel voucher portion of the program, was that they wanted to be able to give people that option. Not only because they felt it was good policy, but also because they wanted the ability to enforce our ordinances that we had on the books.
That's what I was remembering, the Boise case.
I just wanted to add as well on the fire and Department of Life Safety side that we have added a fourth code officer. She's actually completing her training right now as we speak. She will then be moved to working Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday coverage, which is fantastic. So it's a step in the right direction of identification and dealing with some of the things that come from people that are experiencing homelessness.
That's great. I mean, 5 days later, I got a call back and I was like, It just didn't seem right.
And this is regarding CityNet stuff.
Yeah.
Give us a call.
Oh, we did, and your department was great. They got us going, it was getting the, I hate that term, getting the wraparound to wrap around.
Yeah.
Just didn't happen.
So I guess I'm gonna make a motion that the non-counseling portion of CityNet, being specifically hotel rooms, damage to hotel rooms, profit and meal vouchers, be moved to the general fund.
And administrative.
Second.
Do we get a second?
She said,
Second.
yeah.
Okay,
Vice Chair, if I could help clarify, looking at the language of the agreement and how it was broken down in the proposal, I believe the portion of our agreement with CityNet that you're referencing is referenced as the emergency shelter / bridge housing component. So my recommendation would be, again, to be specific in what your motion is. It would be to transfer the emergency shelter / bridge housing component of the CityNet contract to the general fund balance.
does that include the 10% management fee? Does that include damage? And does that include meal vouchers?
I think we can make sure that that is included in your motion, so emergency shelter / bridge housing,
Okay,
including 10% admin fee, damage to units and meal vouchers.
okay. I so move.
I just want to make sure we're telling the council since we're not sending them a letter, I guess.
Sure, Prince. Motion by Schaefer, second by Silva. We'll do a roll call. Committee member Kane,
Aye.
committee member Clark,
Yes.
committee member Silva,
Yes.
Vice Chair Schaefer.
Yes,
That motion passes 4-0.
okay. We had a discussion last time about a journal entry that was made. I forget whether it was 80,000 or 800,000.
I actually have a memo that I did prepare to provide. Just to clarify, in researching it, it was not a journal entry.
Okay,
It was a funding source. And what had happened is during last year's budget workshop in the presentation that we gave Measure U, we were going to replenish the equipment replacement fund using Measure U fund balance. And I believe it was committee member Clark had recommended that it needs to come from general fund to replenish that. So that is where it occurred. It wasn't a transfer from general fund to Measure U. It was actually a swap of the funding source. So, and that's.
and what is the dollar amount?
It was 800 and, let's see here,
179,200.
yeah. Yeah. And it was split between police and fire.
Oh. I'm a numbers guy. Always been.
Yeah, 182,400 for police.
Say again?
182,400 for police and then 683,300 for fire.
600,000? Did you say?
Yeah, 683,300.
Okay.
And the 683 is for what?
That's the portion of the equipment replacement for the fire department.
Okay. Which is legit. I mean, yeah, okay. All right. Okay, committee members, are there any further discussion?
Just a question, since I was the only dissenting member on the vote for under our insurance. If I have, I'm not sure if I can attend on Tuesday, but if I, do I have to get a letter into city council by a certain date? Or can I have it, if I can't attend, can I have it, delivered that night and it be handed out to the city council members if I,
Anytime before 2 p.m. on that meeting day,
on that meeting day,
correct?
and do it here
Oh, just email me.
or email you? Okay,
Sorry, on your behalf.
okay.
Council.
I did also want to let you know that, we did have a recent change in our expenditures and to, balance that for the next year's budget. We did increase the revenue slightly in Measure U by $130,000 to balance out that expenditure cost, and it's for, our salary survey, the, market mean that we're working towards. There was a late development for the city of Rialto, which was one of the comparators, where they retroed, a pay increase back to July 1st of 23, which we had to then account for in our salary survey, which increased, it was about 130,000 for Measure U side of expenditures. So we raised the revenue to meet that. So, there is a new total for Measure U of 16,562,200 versus what was previously disclosed on our budget workshop meetings. So I just want to let you guys know of that. And then,
That's part of the paperwork we don't have.
right. And then another thing just to add on, the insurance, I know that you had said how long it took your area to. The broker, especially because the police department had provided such well documentation of things they've implemented. We're probably looking at 1 year, possibly 2, of having to be under this such a high risk insurance coverage. Hopefully it'll fall back to normal and we'll be able to be accepted into regular liability pools, so the cost to the city won't be so extreme. So that is our goal.
Does this come with an ability for the city attorney to review the claims that the insurance is saying they want to pay and be able to object to that? Or is it just like the rest of us homeowners and
Well,
auto owners?
Our office works closely with risk management to review every claim that comes in. We've never, in my time here, had our insurance decline to cover a claim that we disputed. There are claims that they'll decline to cover, they're explicitly excluded. You know, for example, if someone challenged a planning commission action, our insurance doesn't cover that.
Oh, I'm saying the other way around. If you get wind or a report that the insurance company is gonna pay out, you don't think that's good for the city?
So
Does the city have a right to object?
We do actively communicate with our insurance carrier. Ultimately, under any insurance agreement, it is going to be their decision if it's their money, right? So once we've expended the SIR, and it goes into the amount that they are going to pay, it's their decision on whether they're going to cover it or not and how they're going to settle it. Most insurance companies that we've worked with, our former Cal JPIA, and before that, are very good about soliciting our feedback and having a good conversation. But we will not find an insurance company that will let us control it while they write the check.
I'm not saying.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
But we will try to maintain a really good communication relationship with them whenever we get our new insurance company. I've never had an issue with that because they always want to make sure that we're working collaboratively, essentially to reduce liability all around.
I just, as a homeowner, you get something, or vehicle owner, you get a claim against you. And you're, no, this isn't right. Insurance company pays it, but then dings you on the backside
In all
also.
frankness, there have been claims where we've had concerns like that. We've expressed those. They're about ongoing and pending litigation, so I don't want to go into details here in this open forum. But I can tell you that, yes, that is the thing that happens. Yes, we express our opinion on those claims, but ultimately it's a business decision for the insurance company.
and we do work with a third-party administrator that does help with the mediation in between the claim and before it gets finalized.
We need to redraft our letter to the city council. And I move that the former committee do that.
We would-
Norm's not here today, but
We would need to, if we're redrafting our letter, we would need to get it to you by next Tuesday at 2 p.m., right? Or does it need to come back through this committee?
That'll be a motion you make, so past Measure U committees have empowered the chair, or in your case, a subcommittee, to draft a letter consistent with the following findings. They leave the actual language up to whoever's drafting the letter.
Mhm.
That way you don't have to meet again, just to say, yes, that's what we agreed to. But if you wanted to bring it back and you all wanted to wordsmith it, that's also a possibility.
Cause the other thought is we could take a 30-minute recess of this meeting, draft our letter, come back in a half hour and then pass it. Is that an option?
We could also put some language together right now and just keep it short and sweet if you'd like.
Yeah.
I write letters really fast. Would you like me to?
You guys.
I think I understand.
Right now,
what
then
the
we don't
committee
have
wants.
again.
You wrote it last time,
I
right?
wrote it last time, I have
Yeah,
it here, so I
totally.
could just
Got that.
send you what I just already did and we could wordsmith it right now.
It comes down to on such date, the committee.
Do you want to recess?
This
for
way, this way, this
10
way.
minutes? We go to the city attorney's office, we draft a letter and bring it back?
I think that's a great idea.
I have snacks. Not for everyone.
No, I think it's a good idea because it's one of the complaints I've had with involved with Measure U for years, is that we didn't write the letters. They were written by staff and then reviewed by
Mhm.
chair and vice chair. And tell you the truth, I've never seen one of those letters ever.
They were very eloquent, I assure you. So would you, Vice Chair, committee, would you like to recess briefly? And maybe the subcommittee can meet. I offer my office, maybe the city manager prefer his very fine conference table.
The
Sister Cities conference room would work. And I give, volunteer my services just to get a letter put together real quick. You get it printed out and done today.
why do we need to move from here?
Because,
This is a public forum.
because your subcommittee wants to meet separately to draft the letter. You're free to, as a committee, wordsmith it if you want. It's probably just less than, that's all.
Since we've only got 4 people here, wouldn't a subcommittee of 2 even violate the Brown Act?
It would not.
But 3 would?
3 would not,
Why not?
We'd be fine.
because it's less than a quorum of the entire body. It doesn't matter how many are actually present. It matters how many are appointed to the Measure U.
Okay.
Or you can try to do it right now.
Or, yeah.
Pass the letter.
On my computer. Do you have a physical
We have
copy of the letter last time?
It was conference last time.
Not with me.
All right.
Notes on it.
Maybe.
Do you want me to email you over the file that I had worked on?
That would be great.
So. I'll leave for the 4 days and you guys decide to burn everything up.
Right, I know. You guys sit down now.
I can.
It's been busy, and I was telling the city manager and the team earlier that there's 2 type 1 incident management teams deployed in California right now, which is already more than last year.
Yeah.
And that's up north in Volusia County, actually, and then 1 in LA County at the post fire. Yeah,
I have the duty watch
that's good.
app on my phone, and I'm in Idaho, and it was just constant.
Everywhere, yeah.
And I have a friend that works at interagency there at Boise,
Mhm.
and they're packing stuff now, just in anticipation, more than what they have in the previous years.
Mhm. Yep.
Well, this is going on, Mark. I have a question for you. We had 10, we took out 2 and change. We still got a big pile of money there. Do we have a plan to find a use for that to improve public safety?
What are you referring to? What are you referring to? You had 10, you took away
We have a fund balance of $10 million in Measure U.
Okay,
We just took out 2.
right,
Okay, so that leaves us 8.
okay.
Okay, having that set in a bank somewhere doesn't seem right when there's so many public safety issues that could be addressed.
The way we've treated, and I'm gonna generalize, but the way we've treated the use of general fund reserves, whether it's Measure U or the regular general fund, is to make strategic one-time investments, not to invest in ongoing operational expenditures, because we would quickly draw down all of the funds if it was a multi-year effort. So we have occasionally dipped into some of the funds. I don't know if we dipped into one-time Measure U balance for the truck. Or was that general fund?
General fund, we didn't
General
need to, and the vehicle
Yeah.
replacement fund.
That's right, we had most of it covered by the vehicle replacement fund, but if we just had a police vehicle break on us permanently this past week, and it's gonna be replaced by a $27,000 vehicle. And sometimes we're gonna have situations where an apparatus or a vehicle that we thought was going to be there for another year or 2 or whatever needs to be replaced, and there's not insurance to necessarily replace it. That might be an appropriate use of those funds. Sometimes operationally, we would have to consider that in the course of an ongoing operational year, after a budget's been adopted while we're having that year. But we've also tried to make, on the general fund side, not the Measure U general fund side, we've tried to make some strategic investments. So think pavement and street maintenance, right? To make sure that those streets, we catch them before they become more expensive. For public safety, when we distinguish between police and fire's at about their 20% number right now. There's not a lot of room. I don't know if you have the specific numbers in front of you.
I don't.
Police has a little bit more, so their their balance was, I think, closer to 40%.
Yes.
40% for Measure U police. So by taking away a little bit of it, we're still above the 20% council number. But it's nice to have a rainy day fund in case there's a rainy day. In times of economic distress in California, and we have fairly significant peaks and valleys because we're we the state are highly dependent on income tax and sales tax. In the city of Hemet, we're highly dependent on sales tax, and that's more volatile than other types of revenue, like property tax, which is more stable. Because we sell a lot of cars, we live and die by the sale of cars in Hemet. It's good to have some extra dollars available, because if we were entering a significant recession, we might recommend to you in a future year that we pay for a portion of salaries with a portion of our one-time monies, right? Where we might, and my own philosophy is whatever amount we're willing to part with out of our general fund reserves, we shouldn't part with more than 1/3 of that amount. Because it may take us 3 fiscal years on average to get back to where we used to be. So I would recommend if we had $6 million of police money and we were entering an anticipated recession, I wouldn't want to recommend use of more than $2 million in year 1 of that recession. Because we might need it for a rainy day, and after the recession, we would want to replenish that as quickly as possible. But we haven't thankfully had to do that, and you may have had to confront that in prior years here. I don't think so. But it's my recommendation that you save that for a rainy day. We don't have, if it was 100%, we could talk about some other one-time investments that might make sense.
A year from now, what do you think that Measure U balance will be?
Measure U, we're using 3.2 million of it. Because it doesn't have to be 2.4, it's 2 million, right? So we're using 3.2 million of it. in the current year. It's possible, we have a theory that our sales tax forecast is a little conservative. We're hoping to outperform that. The average, I think the Measure U number was 2.1 or 1.6. Measure U 1.6,
Or,
sales tax forecast.
I
It's either 2.1 or 1.6.
think it was 2.1.
I think it was 1.6.
Did I hear a number?
Polina, do you have that up?
We're at 10, we're 10 less two,
Hidden on 1.6.
so we're 8. What do you think it's gonna be a year from now?
It might be 2.
What?
What I'm forecasting is, I think we can outperform our sales tax forecast. And if that's the case, it's gonna offset the amount that we're dipping into right now. I know, having talked to the auto dealers, when we're about to, today, I think at 3 o'clock, we opened bids on the repaving of the auto mall. The auto mall is going to have a pre-paving sale, they're gonna have a during construction sale. We're gonna really help them amplify the fact that there's brand new concrete there, asphalt for the first time since 1994. We wanna sell a lot of cars. And as the interest rates come down, hopefully near the end of the year or into 2025, we're hoping we sell some more cars. So I'm hoping that we can significantly outperform that 2% or whatever it is. Lena, did you?
1.6.
1.6, okay. I'm hoping that we can outperform that number. And the actuals that we're forecasting are actually less than the budget that we're forecasting is less than the actuals that we received in 2022, I believe. So we've done it before, we should be able to do it again.
If a person goes and buys a vehicle out of the city, but inside California, does the city still, that's one of the sales tax things that the city still gets?
Right.
Is that correct?
1% of that transaction, if they bought it in, let's say, the city of Roseville, which has a auto mall and they have their own 1 cent Measure U, the city of Roseville would get that 1%. We would get the original one, the Bradley Burns 1%. But let's say it's a Menifee resident that is coming here to shop, we're gonna get Measure U 1% off that transaction. Which is great. We want as many of those new Winchester residents and Menifee residents, we want them to know that the auto mall's just around the corner. I wanna sell them a car. We also want to incentivize or figure out a way to fill up the remaining few parcels that we have that are vacant. It's a
Let
new.
me ask it a different way. How much did the Measure U fund balance go up in the last fiscal year?
What are we forecasting? And what was the actuals for 23?
I don't know off the top.
I did not receive it yet.
Helena's looking.
Yeah.
How annoying.
I just received it.
Okay.
We have a pretty robust firewall. I'm sorry.
I just got this new computer, so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I think we had it in a prior document for you that we handed out. I think the fire overtime pulled it down a little, right? And the police had slightly less expenditures than budget. And it was a net decrease of approximately 400,000
See this year? Yeah, it was
In
about
the-
100,000, yeah.
June 30 numbers. Kalina's gonna find it in a second.
Unofficially, that's what I had from Martha on our end.
It was in the PowerPoint, your first PowerPoint presentation.
Takes a little bit to navigate. Peter, so popping up again.
Oh,
Okay, so what year are you looking for fund balance?
2024. 2023, sorry.
Three. Ending fund balance was just under 15 million total. I'm sorry, just under 15 million for police. Just about 4.4 million for fire with a total of 19.4 million total.
And what went up or down? Did it go up or down for police and fire? Do you have the,
23,
in 23,
it went up for police, down for fire.
by how much? What was the net adjustment to the aggregate Measure U balance?
The net adjustment was a decrease of about 500,000. In 2023.
So I've sent to committee member Kane the letter, if I were writing it, based on the concerns that the committee has shared. And I'm currently doing a red line of the letter that I received. But if, I don't know if we have the ability to print it, or the committee member would like to just read the language out and see how the committee feels about it, but
Yeah, this covers pretty much everything we've talked about so far today and what we wrote last time. Okay, I'm just gonna read it. Members of the Hemet City Council pursuant to section 74-145A2 of the Hemet Municipal Code, the Citizens Oversight Committee on the Hemet Transactions and Use Tax, commonly known as the Measure U Committee, has met to review and report on the proposed and actual expenditures of the Hemet Transactions and Use Tax. The committee finds that the proposed and actual expenditures of the Hemet Transactions and Use Tax are consistent with Ordinance 1918, Resolution 4703, and Resolution 4731, collectively known as the Measure U documents, with the following noted exceptions and recommendations. Recommendation number 1. The city's agreement with CityNet for street outreach and engagement services is generally consistent with the Measure U documents. However, the committee recommends that the city council appropriate funds to pay for the emergency shelter / bridge housing, along with the associated administrative fee, meal vouchers, and damage to motel and hotel rooms to the general fund instead of Measure U. Recommendation number 2, the city council may properly appropriate the additional insurance costs projected to be incurred by the city for fiscal year 24-25 to Measure U fund balance, as these additional costs are specifically authorized by Resolution 4703 and have a direct nexus to the provision of law enforcement services. Exception number 1, the city council has not budgeted the necessary funds to achieve the mandatory staffing ratio of 1.2 police officers for 1,000 residents, as stated in section 6 of resolution 4703. I think that covers everything. I would say the only change I would want to see is that the staffing ratio should be 1.2 sworn police officers.
yeah, it's
That'd be the
uniformed.
only,
The term was uniformed.
yeah, that'd be the only change I
Yeah.
see to this, but
Well,
otherwise it
the-
matches pretty much what we wrote last time.
I think the $2.4 million should be spelled out, so it's not a blank check.
the term is sworn police officers,
It is,
sworn peace officers.
Sworn peace officers.
Yeah, so if we want to use the language from the reso, sworn peace officers would be the language.
okay.
And for the insurance, Vice Chair, you're recommending that the 2.4, so under recommendation number 2, it could read, the city council may properly appropriate up to $2.4 million of additional insurance costs projected to be incurred, and then the rest would be the same.
Can you put a note in on our vote so it doesn't appear that it was unanimous?
You could put a notation at the end that this was approved by a vote of 3-1,
And you can put,
with committee member Clark voting no, if you wanted to.
Peace officers, okay, I got that part. And then, what was the second part? And this was under the city net part, right?
No, the 2.4.
Yeah.
It's under recommendation 2. So it would read, the city council may properly appropriate up to $2.4 million of additional insurance costs, and then the rest is the same.
Two,
It's about 2.
the delta on the premium is 2 million.
Do you want to be more?
Twice.
No, I think the 2.4 could be.
And then I changed that to sworn police officers.
Something lower.
And then what do you want me to put
At
in?
the
You
end
want
of
to say
the
two?
insurance portion,
Mhm.
just put a one sentence saying that,
City penalty.
the motion was approved by
Zero.
committee 3-1,
Measure you.
with
Mhm.
committee member Clark
Uh-oh.
objecting.
We can take less as my point.
Okay. And, you know, we use up to 2.4 on that because it could come in lower.
Yes.
We're expecting the premium to come in a little lower.
We expect it to come in lower. We're gonna negotiate diligently.
Steve,
Yeah, I
what
wrote-
kind of things did the police side do to make the insurance companies feel better?
Oh, man, it's a list of things that have to, it's a whole bunch of stuff. So it's not stuff that.
Some of it is privileged.
Yeah, well, I understand that, but training issues.
No,
policy,
things such as our drone program, you know, just saying that we have a drone as a first responder program is huge. That's a liability. You get eyes on the ground, you see the people with, you know, someone with a gun or a weapon. Things like that. They didn't know these things. And so when we put that all on paper, goals as far as more training, a whole list of things. Stuff that we were doing probably 6 months previous to a year, the whole last year, and things we have goals to get accomplished here in the next year. My goal is we put it in a quick format, memorandum format, but I want to put together an actual internally, like a strategic goals for the department, internal goals. So that's what I'll be trying to put together, not myself, but trying to figure out who could do that for us.
We had insurance companies that said no to us when we, you know, this is still less than 90 days ago when we received the notice of cancellation, but when we initially reached out, we had companies say no, and they revisited this conversation once we shared this document with them. So that was good news.
So just a feel good. I believe, you know, I'm a little biased because I'm the chief of police for this department, but I believe we're way far advanced in a lot of agencies around us. As far as technology goes and the procedures we're taking, but you know, you can always do better, right? And so that's what we plan to do.
I had somebody call me from my old department and said, explain flocks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's getting all the way up north.
I just came from a class in Folsom and a lot of them are just now starting to implement up in the Bay Area. And near San Francisco, but it's gonna be a game changer for them. They're starting out just like we did, you know. Paradise PD up by San Francisco, is that?
Paradise
Paradise
down the
to the east,
Burdell.
to the east.
Starts by a P with a P. Anyways, it's still an agency. They're starting with 20 cameras, flock cameras that I told them it's gonna change your world. You guys are gonna love it, so. Yeah, they're little, it's almost like a different state up there as far as policing goes. You know, you wouldn't think you're in California.
Palo Alto.
None of those.
Paradise Burnell.
Wasn't,
Yeah, no, it wasn't Paradise.
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Well, for a rural department, I mean, my departments were on 101, so there's only. That was the drug route, that was the human trafficking route, the whole works. And
Pacifica, that's what it was.
but to put that together in the rural areas, it's
with all this construction on Florida, I would strongly suggest that we put some no right turn on red. I almost got hit yesterday. Some big van tried to make a right turn and couldn't hold the lane. Luckily, I slammed on my brakes to miss him. But I don't think, when they got all those construction barrels, that they should be able to do a right turn on red.
I wish it was that easy.
Uh-oh.
Okay, do you want me to read you back that sentence? What I asked? Okay, so for recommendation number 2, it says the city council may properly appropriate up to $2.4 million of additional insurance costs projected to be incurred by the city for fiscal year 24-25 to Measure U fund balance, as these additional costs are specifically authorized by resolution 4703 and have a direct nexus to the provision of law enforcement services. This motion was approved at the June 18th, 2024 Measure U Citizen Oversight Committee meeting 3-1 with committee member Clark objecting. Do you want to say objecting, or is that the right word?
I would say voting no.
Voting no.
Voting no would be
That's probably more appropriate.
lawyers object. Many members vote no.
Okay.
Oh,
All right, cool. And can I send this to somebody to print so we can print and sign it?
And Vice Chair, I drafted it for your signature, as you are the highest ranked committee member we have present. I drafted the letter for your signature, sir.
You'd have to show it.
You're gonna sign the
Okay.
letter.
Is that okay?
I'll take it under advisement.
Which can be done after the adjourning of the meeting, correct?
Well, what you could do is you could take a motion to authorize the vice chair to sign
Right.
the letter, and then you can adjourn. And
No motion.
Do that.
There we go.
Third.
I love you guys.
Second. I heard a motion in a second to approve.
Okay, yeah, so motion for Vice Chair Schaefer to approve. And
I motioned it, yeah.
you motioned it, I'll second it. And then I will send this over to you right now.
Okay, we're gonna do a roll call. I have a motion by
City Clerk, Mr.
committee member Clark, second by committee member Kane. We're gonna do a roll call. Committee member Kane,
Aye.
committee member Clark,
Aye.
committee member Silva,
Aye.
vice chair Schaefer.
Aye.
That motion passes 4-0.
We almost got you, Bart. We're coming around the bend.
That's good. I'm gonna need a recommendation on how we fund the extra 0.2 though.
Egg sales.
Hey,
Sorry, JP, I just had to do that.
We could turn half the firefighters into officers, right?
Sunnyvale, we have.
It's a terrible idea.
Santa Rosa PD,
Terrible idea.
the cops,
That's the
love
only
it. They
place
just
it's where-
turn out in their.
Do not say Sunnyvale around
That's
firefighters.
the only place it's where.
Guys need to go to the high schools, like recruiters, high schools and colleges.
I just sent it. so-
Like recruiters, go to high schools and colleges.
So Chair, would you like to adjourn, or is there more business?
That's it, they're gonna print the letter out for you. to
Read an
sign.
article on that one, actually.
okay.
High school level.
Seeing that there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned. We do not have
Oh, really?
a subsequent meeting date. Do we need to set one at this point? I don't think we do. Okay, fine. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Eddie?